Good afternoon, all. Am I audible? Shilpa ma'am, Anna ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Thank you. Participants who are here this afternoon, good afternoon, all. Professor Sushant Mishra sir said he'll be joining us in another 5 minutes, so we'll wait for him. By then, I'm sure other participants will be joining us. Yesterday, I was saying I'll share the reference material which Dattatreya madam had shared with us, isn't it? I'll do that now in the chat box. Will I be able to attach? Yes. I'll also put it in the WhatsApp group which we have, and probably also share it with you to your respective mail IDs. And by the time our speaker could join, I just have this small information for all of us. I'll be sharing a Google Sheet to all of you where I want you all to cross verify with your name, because you'll be getting an e-certificate, isn't it? As earlier mentioned. So we just want you to check your name and your affiliations, because many of you in the Google form, instead of writing your name, has just given the title alone, either like Mr. Mr. or Doctor alone. So based using your mail ID, I had to connect and then type your name there. I don't know if I've done it correctly. So I want you all, I'll be circulating a sheet probably by this evening or tomorrow. I want you all to cross check that once and revert. And a few of you also have not given us the UTR number, screenshot of the UTR number. This is the first page, no, paid to SRM English Association. That much alone is there. So a screenshot with the UTR number would be of great help, as we are actually verifying it with the bank statement. Actually, that is a proof which we have to share when a proof is asked for, isn't it? So I think maybe you were in a hurry when you wanted to send the screenshot. So I have noted down of those whose proof is not given to me clearly, in the sense the UTR number. So I'll be sharing that details also in the mail as well as through WhatsApp group. So against whose names, where I've mentioned no proof, I'm making it clear, though I have written no proof, it doesn't mean that you have not given your attachment. You have made an attachment, but the attachment does not have the UTR number. Okay. So against, remove that no proof and please type your UTR number there. Okay. So hope you understood what I'm trying to convey through this, because we have to cross verify or cross check on the payment which is made. So all of you have made your payments, but just for us to know the UTR number, so it will be easy for us to tally the accounts towards the end of the FDP. Those of you who have joined new, now, I don't know if you will be able to access the chat box attachment which I've already made. Otherwise, towards the end of the session, once again, I'll attach the reference material which Professor Dattatreya has shared with us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome. This is Ramya from SRM Institute of Science and Technology. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay.
That you can
Can we
see
start
me,
the
you can hear
session, sir?
me. All that fine?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine.
Very
Thank
fine. Yes. So
you.
can we start the session, sir?
Yes, you can start the session.
Okay. Department of Language, Culture and Society, College of Engineering and Technology, SRM IST Katangalatur campus, in collaboration with Department of Linguistics, Tetso College, Dimapur, Nagaland, is organizing a 6-day online faculty development program on narratives of change, reimagining English language and literature as a mirror of cultural and intellectual transformation, NEP 2020 and Viksit Bharat 2047. We have with us our expert for delivering his lecture for our 7th session, and the session is titled as Language and Literature, the Zoanarchic Perspectives of Indic Culture. We have such an experienced person with us today, this afternoon. Sir, we are honored to welcome Professor Sushant Kumar Mishra, an eminent scholar of French and Francophone studies and the current Dean of the School of Languages and Literature, Humanities at Nalanda University. With over 3 decades of academic leadership across premier institutions such as JNU and IGNOU, he has played a transformative role in language education and multilingual scholarship and curriculum innovation. I'm sorry, I think someone else's voice is heard. I'll just work on it for a minute. So, with over 3 decades of academic leadership across premier institutions such as JNU and IGNOU, he has played a transformative role in language education, multilingual scholarship, and curriculum innovation. Professor Mishra's vast work in semiotics, translation studies, comparative literature, and multilingual pedagogy directly resonates with the National Education Policy 2020, which envisions multilingualism, cultural rootedness, global competencies, and the integration of Indian knowledge systems. His contributions to developing curriculum, creating language learning materials, and advancing translation studies embodies NEP's goals of inclusivity, accessibility, and cross-cultural understanding. At a time when Viksit Bharat 2047 calls for a knowledge-driven, culturally confident, and globally connected India, Professor Mishra's scholarship stands as the intersection of Indian traditions and global thought systems. His efforts in strengthening linguistics diversity, promoting intercultural communication, and training generations of educators powerfully support the nation's vision of intellectual growth and global leadership. We are privileged to have him with us today to enrich our understanding of language, literature, and nation transformation. Sir, the platform is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ramya. It's a pleasure to interact with you all. I'm grateful. And I know that here in this kind of program, we are going to interact with the young and budding scholars who are very fertile in their intellectual reproductions. So it will be a test for me also. And I will try to interact with all of you, though it is an online platform. Many times it appears that online platforms are not interactive. However, I feel that you all can interrupt, just put your thumb or anything like that, and then we can try to understand each other in a much better way. So for the time being, I have started sharing my slide. I, I hope my slides are visible to you. Is
Yes,
it?
sir.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if my slide is visible, you can see the topic today. The topic is very clear, very well defined, and the purpose is also very well defined, because we have to understand in our contemporary times how to make the teaching and learning of language and literature relevant for our times. So we have to understand that how the zooneric perspectives of Indic cultures are relevant for our times. You can see we have many new subjects like environmental humanities and the biosciences, eco criticism, ecofeminism, and all that. And all these include these two perspectives, zoo, aneric. By zoo, you all know. And aneric is that aner. The word is a Greek word, aner, which means human being, which is a cognate word of what we have in Sanskrit called a nara, naraha. So nar means the human beings. In fact, you might have heard a name called Andros or Andre, something like that. That is just a genitive case declension of this word aner, which means that something of human. So Andres is of human, someone who is like human, of human. In that sense, the word is used, and it has become a common name also. So we are trying to explore and understand how more and more we are including these two perspectives. Why these two perspectives? Because from an Indian point of view, the perspectives are very close. In fact, they are not even two perspectives. We don't even look at them as two different species. We are just part of nature. For us, we have been interacting with cows, we have been interacting with horses. You can find in their stories also where very naturally and commonly we interact with all the animals. In fact, in our folk literature, you will find, or even I would say, Shastraic folk literature, I would say like Vad Katha, Brihat Katha, you will find stories where we are interacting with different genres of a species. And in the whole notion of Paishachi Prakrit in Brihat Katha is related to that, that the king heard these stories from the birds and such other creatures. And that's how the issue comes up, that why to separate them, because in nature we all live as an integrated species. We are all dependent on each other. We are all integrated to each other. So this kind of zooneric perspective, which we find in Indian cultures, is getting more and more recognition. And that is a very important aspect if we want to grow further, and if you want to look at the role of language, literature, and I would to some extent include here the culture studies also, because of course culture and language and culture and literature, they all continue together. Language is the carrier, or whether language is itself shaped by the culture. All that debate is a very old. These are old debates, so you can understand that how the geological perspectives and human perspectives get intertwined in all these concepts that we deal with in our contemporary times. And more in 21st century, you can see very clearly that we have all these interactions across cultures. And that's where there is some problem that might happen, because the first issue becomes language contact situation, in which literature also comes in contact, and then you can find it. For example, in India, you will find the influences from other cultures and vice versa also. Now, how to interact and how to understand these kind of influences in a particular framework of our contemporary times? You see, our education policies also respond to this. In 2005, we had one national curriculum framework which operates primarily at the school level, but it has a vision for higher studies also, because the foundation is there, but it grows further. Then we continue later, and then our NEP, of course, it includes so many other aspects, something which comes from Indian culture. That is exactly what I am trying to call as zooneric perspective, because the environmental concerns. See, earlier also, Supreme Court had mandated the teaching of environment or environmental studies till primary classes. Then later, in at graduation level also, it was a mandatory subject. However, now more and more, this kind of interactive study is being encouraged. We have to think of ethics, because ethics and emotions versus economy and politics, that was the traditional paradigm which evolved since 16th century, since the ages of modernism, because they were put in verses, not in tandem. Whereas in Indian context, we always put them. See, emotions and ethics cannot be devoid of economy and politics. We may be emotionally attached, but the economy and politics do play a role there, and vice versa also. Economy and politics cannot be without ethics, cannot be without even emotions, because ethics is important, but emotions are equally important. And the whole clash of ethics and emotions are there in our contexts. It is there in European literature also. Often we tend to call it the age-old theme in literature called love and duty. So duty is part of ethics, love is part of emotions. Yes, that is true. But it is not only in the context of love, because love is also a very large concept. In our context, you see, in Ramayana, what happens? Ram is nothing but whole life caught between ethics and emotions. That is the story of Ram. And similarly, you can see other characters also. Mahabharata is also exactly same. You will find ethically ethical decisions and emotional decisions, and you will find the clashes, because ethics is also not unilateral. So that is again a very important point. So you see, and in that situation, language evolves. It is both the victim and the beneficiary, because everything revolves around the language studies and the literature studies, whether in ethics or emotions or anything. Because how will we interact about these issues? So language affiliations, world power centers, all this is there. Some examples are given here, where you can see this kind of interaction, where language itself becomes an issue. How will we understand the world interactions at various levels? Some examples are here. Candide of Voltaire, very common example, or Zadig of Voltaire. They are all related from various tales from Oriental perspectives, and that is being taken in the European literature. This is a very important aspect on which we need to focus in our contemporary times, that what are the discourses that have gone from our cultures, that is the Oriental cultures, to other cultures, not only European cultures, but to other cultures. So you can divide from here to Japan, you have a different kind of discourse similarities that we find, or discourse continuation. Similarly, from India towards West, our West, if you look at the map of India, just Pakistan also is a West for us. So we can continue from there and we can see how the continuity goes. And this is very much related what we nowadays call the Viksit Bharat, because if you want to understand, the notions of Viksit Bharat, one important point is to have an India centric or Indic centric, not only India, but Indic centric approach in our studies. So here are some examples, some of the texts in which it has been done. And the text itself, not only necessarily Indic centric, but the very fact of the problem of centralization, which is there in Europe itself, is also there. Like Persepolis is an example. How would you find the language? And this has been an age-old practice in India. For example, Vedas, they never claim to have been written in Sanskrit. Similarly, even in, let's say, for example, Panini, when he writes the grammar called the grammar book called Ashtadhyayi, he never says that it is the language, it is a grammar of the language Sanskrit. In fact, the use of word Sanskrit may be much later. Ramayana Sundarkand, the word Sanskrit has been used twice, but it's in a completely different context. It is more like a formal speech or more like a cultured speech. When Hanuman looks at Sita and he thinks that in what language should I talk to her? That is a confusion in his mind, because he says that if I interact in a very chaste Sanskrit like a Pandit, like a scholar, then Sita Mata might think that I am someone sent by Ravana, because Sita is sitting in a Shokvatika. So she may not trust me, and in that context, twice the word has been used. So it is the language and the notion of language itself only in the context of identity, it does not work. Identity is there, very much there. How you identify, that's the question Hanuman is asking in Sundarkand, that how you create the identity through language. But the issue is that what is more natural for us in order to communicate between ourselves. And that language is the focus in our contemporary times also. You can see that's the notion of mother tongue. What is more natural for us to learn, and we have to understand, we have to respond to the requirements in the mother tongue. Yes, it doesn't mean that we don't learn the cultured speech of any particular time. If our contemporary times, if it is English, let that be English. But it doesn't stop us from learning, let's say, Coimbatore Tamil, or let's say a local language of Sikkim or anywhere, whatever the requirement may be. So we have to respond accordingly, and we have to understand that these two actually go hand in hand. We cannot put them as as a separate or contradictory. So the issue is not versus, but in tandem. That is some examples. Persepolis is an example. Many of you would have read it. So the issue is, which language does the writer choose? She chooses to write in French, which is not her natural language, because she is a Persian-speaking person who has lived in Germany, thus a Persian-speaking or a German-speaking person. But she has learned French in a particular setup, and so she uses. And there are many such examples. So here is the example from Marjan Satrapi. And similarly, we can discuss again the issue of language and content. How will we understand the language and content? So these issues of culture and identity need to be understood carefully in order to understand the global humanity. And that's a very important issue again. So you have to talk of the global humanity. This is something which is missing, because whenever we talk of humanities in this context or global humanity in this context, we may talk of specializations like world literature, or we may talk of specializations in comparative literature. There are sub-specializations where we talk of various area studies. Now that becomes a problem for us. This is where you can see the various specialization and sub-specializations, where we again put vernaculars as and a certain intellectual discourse again as if they are in contradiction to each other. Yes, vernaculars are important, definitely, and for us, a lingua franca like Latin was to Europe. That was the model given to us. So we always thought that Sanskrit versus the vernaculars, but it is not the model. You can see, I will give you an example of Raj Shekhar's Kavya Purush. When you see the concept of Kavya Purush of Raj Shekhar's, he puts all the languages and all the forms of languages. Sanskrit is their mukh. And then you go till Apabhransh, you have Prakrit, you have Apabhransh, all these languages form the poetry. So Kavya Purush, the formation of poetry itself cannot be just in one language. And poetry here means actually all kinds of creative literature. So all kinds of creative literature are to be necessarily presented, or they necessarily emerge in a mixture of language, in a variety of language. If you look at from our contemporary perspectives, there would be some scholars in Sanskrit. If you want to place Kalidas, where would you place? You can always ask this question. You see the UGC net syllabus. It places Kalidas in Prakrit as well as in Sanskrit. Both UGC net syllabus for Prakrit as well as Sanskrit have Kalidas as an essential reading. You cannot place it in one language because no theater operates, or no novel can operate using only one language or one form of or one variety of language. Definitely there'll be different varieties, and this is where the focus of NEP is very important. And if we want to respond to the regional local requirements, it will be there. And such issues have come up since 18th, 19th century. I have given some examples here from you can note down, but there is much more to it, because synchronic study of language is something to the Western mind that never existed in past. It started only towards end of 19th century, and you can call it the phonocentric revolution also, which was led by Saussure basically, and by the works of Saussure. But it is very important to understand that the moment you go to a global perspective, you cannot be only global and you cannot be only local. That's where I tried to find out also what could be the opposition, antonyms of global, and the only antonym I could find is local. So global and local, both of them go together, and this is the perspective in which any study has to be taken. And if we want to grow further in that, we have to take the locals and their concerns in the age of globalization, where globalization is happening through digitalization. Like you can see, I'm talking from here, sitting in a remote area, and you will be talking from somewhere else when you will ask me questions. We are all are dispersed there, so there is a certain kind of globalization, but your concerns will definitely emerge not only from a global understanding of the issues as it affects the overall economy, polity, literary consciousness, and emotional responses at a global level, but at the local level also, because responses are definitely local. Anything, even news can become global. The process of production of news can become global, but the news is very much local. See, last 3 days, we are all affected, emotionally affected, because we lost one of our pilots in an international show. Had it not been an unfortunate accident, we would not have even paid attention to that, perhaps. But that incident is very much local for us. It is one of us who lost life, one of the brilliant child of our nation who lost the child, and that matters. So it is globalization that goes to digitalization, but digitalization requires a certain kind of localization, and how to take care of that localization, that becomes very important for us. And there is the role of paratext, the role of identity, and something that we sometimes, what Derrida calls difference and difference, that there are certain aspects that we differ also. We just don't discuss that. They remain important. So you can see that in this context, in the contemporary times, we have subjects like digital literature, we have subjects like digital humanities, but they all respond to local requirements. You can see with digital literature, digital humanities, you have blogging. And blogging is very much personal. That kind of personal writing was never available earlier. You can see what the process that has started with novel writing in about 17th, 18th century, depending upon the language of Europe that we talk, or in our contemporary times also, we have in our 19th or 20th century novel writing begins in almost all Indian languages you will find. Then you can see that earlier also like Bhanabhat's texts, they all were written in prose. So they were all a certain kind of emotional expressions. They were captivating stories. Prose was being written. There were stories. There were longer stories, novella, different genres came up. So this kind of digitalization of literature happening. You will find not only blogging and emotional writing, but a certain genre coming out of novels written for mobiles, because there are readers who read the novels or who read literature on mobile. Japanese were the first ones to begin this in almost end of previous century, but actually formalized it in the beginning of our 21st century. So this kind of situation that we have to respond to, and our contemporary theoretical framework that we all are facing in the context of the larger evolution that are happening in our society, because we have to respond to that. Our youngsters are writing different kind of blogs. They are definitely involved in a different kind of production. So there is a digital literature of various types, and a study of all that is required, and we are going to respond to that. Even earlier writings are being read now. So see, literature is not only written anymore. Literature is being read now, and you have apps that will provide you important literatures in a written form. So you see, the literature was written. Along with that, there was something called comics, but gradually, the comics also evolved into various types of literature as audio-visual media got prominence. Earlier, we could only read Ramayana, but there was a time where we started watching movies based on Ramayana. And then came a time when we started watching series or serials, as they were earlier called. So serials, Ramayana was serialized. Ramanand Sagar is a very important example of that. And subsequently, there are many channels. Nowadays, you will find one Ramayana or one version of Ramayana being serialized continuously on some or the other channel. Choices are plenty. So this is a change in presentation of same age-old literature. So you see, what was audio-visual earlier uh, became written, and then again audio visualization. First audio, radio. In radio, it was an audio. Then came visualization, then audio visual literatures of various types, whether it is 3 hour format or 1 hour format or half an hour format for 1 year. There are various formats that are evolving, and we have to respond to these kind of requirements in our contemporary times. So you can see how in history the digital navigation have emerged. Like Persepolis, you have other examples also. We have to understand the endonymous and exonymous understanding the moment we talk of localization and globalization, because there is endonymy and there is exonymy, and that plays a role. So certain kind of post nationalistic understanding remains very important for all of us, and this is what we are facing today. And our education policies since 2010 have started responding. Actually, it started in 1986 itself. But the focus more was on job. Then came a requirement when we had to balance. And the latest NEP would focus more on that, because we have to understand that there is a local requirement which emerges only in local language, and we all respond to it differently. We cannot have a globalized taste. All the food all over the world cannot be similar. Yet there is an industrial requirement to share the food. So what changes are required in order to put the same food in local areas, and also what changes are required in taste itself? One is the language, advertisement process, etc., etc. The other issue is how to create the taste, and all this requires a very clear intervention of understanding and use of literature. And this is where the whole notion of market economy based understanding of human being without any distinction between animal and human emerge. And that has been our age old paradigm also, because anywhere you see how many types of animals are there in Ramayana, you will see that there are birds, Jatayu, then there are animals also taking part, then there are some creatures which appear both as humans and animals, because we don't have a distinction. We are all similar creatures. It's not only by creation or evolution, but we don't see them as different from us. So here again, you will find the same happening in digitalization, because a digital conceptualization again requires different types of animals, or even the animals which do not exist. For example, you will see monsters. You see any children literature, you will find different kind of monsters appearing, and children just love it. They don't exist. Such concept don't exist. This is a human production. Uh, the animals which do not exist, but we create them and we put them in digital forms. So this kind of response is very much required in our contemporary times, and our requirement is something which is put very beautifully in Education 4.0: human needs versus human evolution. Both of them come, because human needs are there. We all need jobs. We all have to study for jobs. But then how do we study for jobs? And at the same time, we have to evolve also as human being. We have to be emotionally evolved persons also, because we are dealing not only with the local sensibility. Earlier we would respond to the people who are around us. Now it is not so. Who is around us? The notion of surrounding itself has changed, because in a digital world we are often surrounded by some international or some national larger concept. You can see the bullying also happening by the people whom you don't even know. So there could be different kind of bullying on different kind of social platforms. So that means that a different emotional response is required, and you will find that some maladjustment often happens on social media. You will find certain things or certain images which have become normal, but new concepts need to respond to those what have become normal, if we look at from the framework of 20th century. And that is where our new education policies or the whole notion of Viksit Bharat, because we need to respond to both our animal instincts and human instincts, and adjust our understanding of ideas and nature by humanizing both of them, because that's a very normal concept. We humanize ideas and nature. That's where we find different representations of gods, etc. Why should we not humanize the idea of a tree? And humanization of idea tree means the tree is talking to you. And you will find that it is in age old literatures it happens, but is it not happening in the novels of Han Kang? Is it not happening in several other novels? Where is Alice in Wonderland? You will find it starts there, or maybe much earlier. But the idea that you find, even what we may like to call ecofeminism in our contemporary times, but Han Kang is writing exactly on the same lines. So our responses at various levels have also evolved. Earlier, it was simply a rejection. We could have called all these ideas as simply a kind of blind faith or following the blind faith. But more and more, with the understanding of nature, with the integration of nature, and with the integration of nature in a greater digitalized world, with greater emotional responses and requirements of greater emotional responses to the people around us, to all the writings around us, to all the kind of information that is, in a way, within quotes, bulldozed to us. Our emotions need to adjust accordingly. And these are very important requirements, because Viksit Bharat cannot be only economically Viksit. We have to evolve to respond to that kind of economic affluence also. So the whole issue of local responses, local emotional responses with various parameters. For example, health is also a parameter. And Viksit Bharat, if we talk only of the market, we may be consuming the products which are not good. But well, it suits my taste. I enjoy that taste. So in our culture literature studies, we do study the taste. We do study the kind of food habits and the food related to various festivals or as depicted in various texts. All that are very important, definitely. But our focus here becomes both global as well as local. This is something new. This is something completely different that we are facing, and digitization also has played a role on these kind of influences. See, earlier you had to learn cooking. Let's say, for example, since I'm talking of food and taste for the time being, the cooking was to be learned in the family or by those who know it. Now it is not so. Even if you don't know, suppose I don't know to make dosa because I don't belong to Tamil Nadu, but I can go to internet and with some understanding of basics of cooking, I can learn to make a certain dish, a certain type of dosa which I have never eaten. You can learn about the cooking as being done in some part of France or some part of China. So if it suits your sensibility. Digitization provides a certain kind of documentation, which is our job in language. A certain kind of documentation is also required. And how do you respond in our understanding, in literary understanding, to those kinds of documentations? Because see, when Hangang will be describing about the vegetables and how the organs grow with the vegetables and all that, there will be an influence of the local sensibilities, local taste and food sensibilities in her writing. And as a woman, if she is writing, then there will be much more because her experiences will be there as a woman, whatever is there, the traditional stereotypical role, as the Korean society would have evolved, the changing roles of women and changing gender roles, all this will be getting included. So we need to respond to that. And for that, it's very important to understand that the changing roles are directly related to the local sensibilities, and that kind of local sensibilities get represented mainly in the local languages. This is the focus. The moment we want to evolve, we want to understand in a new context, which is not just modernism, which is beyond even postmodernism, because postmodernism also had that idea that is still modernism, or the ideas of modernism continue. Whether we want to accept it or we want to contradict it, that's a different issue. You can see this in Lyotard and Habermas debate, whether it is an unfinished project of modernity or whether it is a new project being started, whichever way we look at it. But the ideas of modernity was there, which actually emphasized, rather, I would say, if I may say, overemphasized the rationality. But here, the rationality might fail because just rationality, just logic does not help. They do not help us in understanding our behavior. There is no reason why you like a food or you don't dislike a food. If you want to reason, perhaps I will not go anywhere. By human instincts or animal instincts, we don't even know why we like someone, why we like a certain situations, why we feel more comfortable in a certain situation, whereas we don't feel more comfortable in other situations. There is no particular reason for this. So now rationality has to adjust to the emotions, and that's where new expressions are coming up. And those new expressions definitely require different kinds of local expressions, again and again being adjusted to global understanding of humanity, because nowadays when language barriers are being questioned, not in terms of literature always, though that is also available in translation. However, translation of literature can always be discussed in various contexts, and the limitations of translation can also be there. But in a larger context, in day-to-day communication, we are talking about such apps that simply facilitate communication. So we have communication in a different context, we have language studies in a different context, we have literary studies in a different context, and we need to respond to them in order to evolve and adjust to the contemporary requirements as a nation, as a society, as the academic or intellectuals, as academics or intellectuals of a particular society, where we have to respond to local requirements as well as we have to respond to the global requirements, because research is, after all, being undertaken with a global understanding. The only adjustment we have to make is to how to include the emotional expressions also in our research, because until now research will be only rational, and more in future we will have to respond to such questions, that how emotions, how digitization of emotions are happening, and how these expressions are changing, and these are the new ways of corresponding, and these are the with the newer generations. And you can see the new kinds of storytelling is also evolving. You can see Japanese mangas being becoming popular in India. How? Earlier we could have said they're completely different, but and our children do not know even the Japanese culture or Japanese society, but these mangas are becoming popular in India. Similarly, there are other popularizations of other productions right from the Disneyland days. And now you see Japanese mangas. Now you can see the Korean series. You can see BTS. This all, both you have a global as well as digital. Various Korean bands in recent decades have played very important role in international communications. I just named BTS. There could be others, Pink Panthers, so many others you can find. So a new kind of digitization and responses as required is very much the need of our times, and that if the more we respond effectively to that need, the more Viksit we can be. It has become a parameter for development. You see, Korea is a developed economy, and you see that the Korean series is becoming more and popular. Why suddenly in 20th century or 21st century you see only the influence of Japanese and Korean series, not from other places? You can see similar efforts were made by USSR. Babusha and others, they were famous at a time, but now you don't find them so influential. So it is related to economy, it's related to how economy itself integrates the emotional expressions from local cultures and try to present it in a global way through various aspects of digitization of knowledge and expressions of human emotions in different ways through different genres of literature. And we have to continuously adjust to the human instincts, which include animal instincts, because human and animal, we cannot see them as separate anymore. We have understood in our contemporary times, in the times of environmental humanities, that we are definitely one. We have to take care and nurture ourselves as one. We cannot be separate, we cannot be different. And only then, when we try to understand the commonness in all the languages, not the distinction. Until now, we have been talking on the distinction framework. But now you see the difference is to be deferred. And that response, that educational response, that social response is very much required, which is actually an age old practice in India. Differences are there, but we still come together. The whole logic, you can see one debate on the marriage system between arranged marriage and the love marriage, that as it takes place, arranged marriage, what do? We actually differ. Differences will be there, but we differ our differences. And then gradually we evolve an understanding. Similarly, the moment we try to understand anyone who is not exactly my persona, but any mutual understanding requires an approach that is inclusive to all. Unless we are inclusive in terms of language, in terms of creative imaginations, in terms of literary productions, we can neither be successful at global level nor at local level. And our recent education policies, NEP, Viksit Bharat's goals, etc., they all include in these things. So these are my basic ideas. With this, I stop today because I have spoken for about 45 minutes. Now, I would love to take some questions and your responses to whatever I have spoken. You can definitely contradict me also. You are welcome. to ask questions, whatever questions you feel that might elucidate further whatever I am trying to talk. Yes, so I stop now here.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful insight on the Indic culture, which of course is framing the basework for NEP 2020 and Viksit Bharat. So, all the speakers, they throw light on the crux of what India is. And it makes us ponder how it can be the framework for a nation's vision, how literature has paved its way already for thinking in terms of our nation's vision. So, on that note, I request the participants to post your questions either in the chat box or to ask sir if you have questions related to the session which he has conducted.
So, any comments from anyone?
So, I have actually one a question. Should I say an observation or it's a doubt? Okay, anyway, you can put it
Yeah.
as. So, you're talking about the interconnectedness, right? Like in many Indic traditions, human and animal instincts are viewed as interconnected. It reflects civilization understanding that the boundaries between species are fluid rather than rigid. When we explore languages and literatures through this lens of this shared instinctual commodities, how can this ancient Indian worldview help us rethink the way we study linguistic differences, especially in the context of NEP 2020's emphasis on cultural rootedness and holistic knowledge system? I'm also posting this question for you in the chat box, sir. It is there for you.
Yes, yes. No, I understand your question, and it is a comment, and this is more a challenge for us. But whatever little I understand in this context is that, see, since the end 19th century, we started talking of phonocentrism. I am talking of the European debate that we have undertaken. This phonocentrism definitely has one feature: the way you speak is different than the way I speak. There is a gender difference. Then there are local influences also in your language, my language. So this phonocentric difference actually celebrates difference. And more we have to understand and celebrate the difference. And language is not only in terms of linguistic production, but in terms of communications, whatever is actually communicating. And communication happens with other animals also. You can see the moment you go to any place and a dog comes to you or a cat comes to you, you communicate with that particular animal. And that communication is very much required. We need to emphasize not only necessarily in linguistic terms where we put an image for everything, but communication is happening in some or the other way. So, larger communication is to be understood. Only then the human and non-human, or not only animals, even trees and others, we have to establish a communication pattern. We have to understand the language of the trees. They are not here to speak to us necessarily, as happens in various stories. But we have to understand the response. See, if I put something on the tree, or if I treat the tree in a particular manner and the tree is getting affected, gradually the tree dies. If I take care of the tree, if I nurture the tree further nurtures me. So there is a relationship. That relationship is very much required for our own survival, for our own understanding. We cannot dominate nature anymore. So the model has gone from domination to cooperation. And in that context, we have to understand the relationship that we have, whether it is verbalized in human linguistic terms or not. But communication and mutual care is there. So we have to verbalize in our own way. The tree will not speak, but the feelings of tree can be understood, because we nurture, then the tree nurtures us also. So there is a feeling, there is a mutual interaction, there is a mutual dependence, there is a mutual affection, there is a mutual love. That is to be emphasized and verbalized in our own linguistic behavior. And this is what is happening. See, the latest I quoted, since I quoted Hong Kong, so I say this is what Hong Kong is doing. This is, whether you call it ecofeminism, eco-criticism, whatever, this is this is the path that we have taken. And now what do we study? Eco-critical concerns in, let's say, Kalidas. Now, you see, texts have always talked about it, and especially Indian texts. We have always talked about it, because the notion has never been to dominate. No other creature, like the biblical narrative says, that all the other creatures are here to serve the humankind. The human has nurtured, definitely. Uh, Originally, they have been saved on Noah's Ark, but they are all there to serve the humankind. It is not the model. The model is we are also to serve them as humans. If we consider for a moment us as separate or superior, whatever, then it is our duty equally to serve them. Only then we will also get served, because service is very important. And we have to have a mutual respect, understanding, and love, and we can verbalize in the way we want. The tree has also communicated in the way the tree can communicate, whether by its death or by becoming slightly pale and not producing enough in terms of trees or oxygen, whatever way we look at it. So it is not only the linguistic verbalization, but overall communicative verbalization. You see, we can put it differently. Like when our child doesn't want to eat something, we try to give the choice, or we try to make the child understand by verbalizing, no, please eat, it's good for your health, try to eat. All this happens, the communication happens around the whole act of eating. The purpose is not verbalization, the purpose is act of consumption for health, or act of consumption for survival. If I don't have enough means, I would like my child to eat at least whatever is there. Now you see, the purpose is completely different. So we, in tree or in other, with other animals also, we have to look at that purpose. Our communication, our language behavior only tries to achieve that purpose. In our linguistic behavior, we should not forget the purpose, which somehow hitherto has been forgotten, and linguistic behavior has become more important. So the purpose has been forgotten. We have to reset our goals and reset the understanding of our communication, and try to focus on the purpose itself. And the purpose is always there, which is being again redefined in newer policies and newer frameworks, that we all are integral, we are all integral parts of the nature. So it is never human versus nature, but it is human and nature, or human as part of the nature. In fact, there is no human separate, it's just nature, we are also there. So this is the main focus which has changed our thinking paradigm and our verbalization paradigms across subjects.
Thank you, sir, for that detailed explanation which you have given for me related to the interconnectedness with the human and animal instinct and the language. Any questions from the participants?
Or any comments? Anything that you think I have said something wrong, you should come up. Young minds.
Ma'am, I think you're mute. Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Ramya ji, your mic is mute.
Yes, yes. There's a question for us in the chat box. I
Yeah.
mean, for you, by Dr. Shilpa Rupesh. What
Yeah.
are the ways in which digitization affected the perspectives of human being?
What are the ways in which digitization? I will, let me check.
Affected the perspectives of human being.
Oh, affecting. Yes, yes, of course. You can see the very fact that we are nowadays presenting blogs. I gave you an example. Uh, how many times do you just while away your time by looking at the reels? And what are the reels? Different kinds of emotional responses to different situations. So you also get affected by that. Whatever you watch, we are consuming that. We also get affected by that. You can see in our contemporary times, like many children at a very young age, their thought process become very fragile. They cannot take any scolding by their parents or by elders. It is affecting their ways of thinking. The whole notion of approval, or among the choice, whatever I want to watch, I will watch only that. It is an emotional response. Every child doesn't respond in the same way, but there will be variations. Different kinds of blogging sites, different kinds of possibilities of creating reels. These are all the digital responses of all that we feel. See, if you dress up, your mood is low, you dress up in a particular manner in order to keep your mood high. Then why do you dress up? Earlier it was only dressing up at the most. And you can walk, but in social situation you cannot always walk fully dressed up. But now there is a difference. Now you will just upload your reel in a dressed up way, and you will wait for the likes, and your sadness and other things will come from the likes that you get. How many numbers of likes, how many friends have liked you. Now you see your world has changed. You have presented yourself to a different kind of audience. You don't even know that person, but the like of an unknown person matters for us. So we are getting to meet the unknown. The age old saying is that strangers are the friends we are yet to meet. But strangers are the friends we are now going to interact. They remain a stranger. We don't know them at a personal level, but we are interacting with them. So these are the new definitions of friend. You see, friendship. What is friendship nowadays? And you will find in Gen Z, if you try looking words with ship, you will find different kinds of adjustments because the situations have changed. Friendship, new words you will hear related to friendship with ship itself has become a word for relation. And what kinds of relation? Then you will find it differently. You have new vocabulary coming. You might have heard of FOMO, FOFO. See, we are talking of Viksit Bharat. So we have to talk of all that. You see, so FOME, so many new words have come up because we are emotionally responding in a different manner. Just think that a few generation ago, could they even think of such emotional responses that we are talking, or our Gen Zs is using? See, these responses and these ideas are being concretized, and one of the tests for any new idea is the new vocabulary, a new term. The moment we have a new term for anything, it shows that we have become aware of that idea. So a new kind of awareness, and you can very much see in our Gen Z vocabulary. And why only Gen Z? It was there. Change in language have always happened. So you will always find this kind of change and this kind of evolution is language, because ideas continuously evolve. And to respond to it in our contemporary times, Gen Z vocabulary is a very, very important parameter. One of the very important parameters. There could be others also, because Gen Z becomes noticeable immediately. I'm sure that if we study the vocabulary of the elderly people, we will find there also some changes, because the elderly people of yesteryears and today, they cannot talk in the same way. Because see, earlier elderly people were in a larger family. Now there are many times being left alone. And I still remember my mother used to say that that gradually the words for brother and sister will disappear, because many of my friends, they all had only one child. So wherever she go, you have only one child, you have only one child. So she said once that gradually the words for brother and sister will perhaps disappear. Already you can see the word for cousin is disappearing, because there are single children norm, they never meet their cousins. And we are now attached to different families. So we have a whole notion of reconstituted families. In India, it is less. But if you go to Europe, there is a notion of reconstituted families, because you go to new places, you don't have your own children or you don't have your own people. So whoever takes care of you, it is the notion that has evolved, that neighbors are your first friends. So now you have a notion of reconstituted families. In COVID times, you could have seen, you just knock the next door and you say, the younger people would say, the elderly people, don't think that you are alone, we are here. Now there's no relationship. They have never talked in last 5 years. They were all busy in their life, but the COVID forced them to interact with each other. So look at these situations where we are responding to the requirements of strangers. Earlier also it was there. That was our instinct. See, somebody has a problem while there is a minor incident or accident on a road. Everybody responds. But now that response is becoming more and more formalized, and that is getting different expressions. So we are concerned about each other, with each other, in a different way, and that is getting very much expressed in the new vocabulary and evolution of our language. I don't know if I answered you, but this is what I thought when you asked me this question. So
Yes,
these are
sir.
my
Thank you. Yes, I got the points. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Other questions? So we have a lot of message here saying that your session was very inspiring and they are very thankful for this insightful session. So I would like to, I have another question. This is related to the research perspective, because nowadays people want to do it on SDG or on NEP 2020. They somehow try to connect it. So based on your topic, how can the lenses like zooneric or comparative literary perspectives bring the marginalized tribal or ecological narratives into mainstream academic discourse? How can this be done? Because day before yesterday, we had speakers who spoke about the languages in the Northeast region. So it was, we are loaded with so much of information when it comes to tribal language. If we can use zooneric languages or perspectives there, how can we adapt it, sir, into the academic discourse?
Yeah, that's a very important question. And in fact, not only Northeast, this is where the local language. If you go to Odisha, you go to Rajasthan, you have tons of information loaded in their language, in their culture. And in fact, loss of such expressions are becoming a global concern. I can give you an example how global concern. They call it autochtone people, the tribal people of Canada. They are now being given all the modern gadgets to survive in the difficult cold circumstances, because they lived in ice and mountains. So now they survive with the new technology, but the moment technology is gone, and technology is very fragile. You see, earlier we used to boil milk 3 or 4 times, and that's how the milk was kept fresh. Now we keep it in fridge. Whatever be the health consequences, forget it. The moment you have an electricity failure, the first response of anyone at home, I won't say anymore even housewife at home, anyone at home, because that role has also changed. So anyone at home is, oh, what will happen to that pizza or that fridge or that whatever I liked? I had bought a Subway and kept in fridge, that tomorrow morning I will eat it, because I will not have time to cook while going to the office or going to university. Now look at the response. So, in every local language, every regional variety of language, you have tons of information which are related to the survival instincts of human beings. Even mainstream languages have that. You go to Awadhi, you go to Bhojpuri, you will find it. But then the issue is, what is mainstream? This is where the issue comes. We try to mainstream it, and the contradiction comes there. The moment we make it mainstream, the whole issue of forgetting the knowledge begins. The knowledge has to be there, and the knowledge will certainly evolve in that situation. We have to learn from that. So globalization, mainstreaming is nothing but putting it at a global context, whether global might mean an Indian context also. But India is one. At the same time, it includes so many climates, so many geographical conditions that the responses of human beings would be different. I cannot eat the same way as I in Himachal as I eat in Rajasthan. It is obvious. And we move in that situation. So we have to understand that there is certainly a local influence on our way of thought, and we have to uh, amalgamate that. We have to combine that in our thought process, in our research more and more, while not trying to mainstream it, yet trying to adjust ourselves to both global as well as local requirements. This is the greatest challenge in our contemporary times, because the idea of mainstreaming is itself against the mainstreaming. If we mainstream it, the moment we mainstream, local is forgotten. And that's the idea of the whole, every margin, the postmodernist thought. Deconstructionism is exactly a response to that. Deconstructionists, they say, Derrida says that every marginal idea is a mainstream idea. You have to recontextualize it. So, in that way, we have to bring up every local thought process in various ways. And you can see, actually, in market, it is happening. How many of us are using nowadays simply Maggi masala in our cooking? Whether you are from Tamil Nadu or you are from Sikkim, all of us are using Maggi masala. It has one unified taste, but it must have come from somewhere. And it doesn't hinder our use of the local masalas. Now there is in the market, there is a certain focus. Similar focus we need in our research also. We have to understand how Sikkim people would think, how the climatic conditions are getting adjusted in villages in Bihar, in their agricultural practices, in their ways of speech, in their ways of communicating with each other, etc., etc. And our study need to focus on that. Our research need to focus on that. How the festivals are being celebrated, what kind of festivals are being celebrated in a particular region. And you can see, for example, if there are a lot of water bodies, the festivals would be different. You can think of an Onam race. You see, all kinds of races that happen in Kerala, because it can happen only in Kerala. Can you think of that in, let's say, Karnataka or Andhra? Or let's say in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh? Because we don't even have such water bodies. Where would you conduct such races? So obviously it will be different. Our responses will be different. So all that need to be adjusted, looking at both global as well as local, with an understanding that no mainstream is actually main. Every mainstream is a marginal idea, which in our thought process for that particular moment is being mainstreamed. That's all. Otherwise, there is no mainstreaming. Even we don't want to put the same clothes every day. We may like, let's say, I like, let's say, now you see, which is your favorite color? Let's say I say my favorite color is red. Okay, Ramya ji is putting red sari today. Okay, but tomorrow you will not wear red. No color is mainstreamed. Every day we all will change the color of our dress. So this is the mainstreaming or the unitary idea being chased need to be changed. We have to evolve from the question that what is your favorite color, what is your favorite food. There's nothing like that. All food needs to be favorite with some plus or minus that will be there, and we have to respond to that, because in different parts of the world we have responded differently, and we will keep receiving the influences in different ways. So the whole debate of mainstream versus margins have to be readjusted according to our requirements, and research need to be focused more and more towards that area. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Totally given a new perspective related to the word mainstream. Now I'm able to think, if at all, if I'm going to use the word marginalized or mainstream, I'll have to think twice before I put that into my sentence. So yes, when we talk about NEP 2020 or Viksit Bharat, or be it in our own literature, where we try to voice the voiceless, I am going to borrow your phrase, which you said now, recontextualize the marginalized. Yes. So on that note, I would like to recontextualize the marginalized and thank you. And I want to thank you for giving us an entirely new perspective and how we can take our research or any kind of academic writing for that matter with our nation's vision and goal. Thank you, sir. Any more questions from the participants if you want? Or can we wind up the session? If we can wind up, please let us know by a thumbs up. So we'll.
I think everyone is now waiting for their lunch.
But this session was very insightful, sir. Thank you so much for giving us such a wonderful session. Sharing your knowledge with us and making us think in terms of research in future. Yes, on behalf of all the participants, we take this moment or time to thank you for your valuable time and for your wonderful insights. And we look forward to hearing such sessions in future from you, sir. So on behalf of TETSO, Department of Linguistics, TETSO College, and Department of Language, Culture and Society, SRM, Katangulathur campus, we thank you very much, sir, for joining us today for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a really wonderful session. We hope to have you more in sessions like this again. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure. I will be
Yes.
there whenever you wish.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Participants, you will have your feedback link posted in the chat box now. So please, yes, ma'am. Yeah, Dr. Yansubeni has already posted the feedback. Kindly fill that. Yes,
I can leave now. I can leave now.
Yes, sir. You can leave. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, the feedback form is here. I'm also posting the study material, which I mean the reference material. Okay. I'm trying to attach. Which Dr. Dattatray shared with us. I said I'll be posting it, but yesterday I didn't do it. So and those of you who joined late, I was just talking about that we'll be sharing a Google Sheet. We want you to check that for your name, for your spelling, for your affiliation, and all that. And a few UTR number also we were not able to find in the proof which you have attached in the Google form. So kindly help us with the UTR number. We'll share the sheet. Maybe I'll do it this way. I'll share your names and your affiliation alone. UTR, I'll leave it blank. I request you to kindly fill the UTR number in that place which is provided. This I'll be sharing, especially with the outside participants, and for a packet sheet here within our department, your UTR number. So others, please, once you get the sheet, please see that you completed. And I'm sorry, I'll be posting your phone number or your mail ID to all, because as I told you, a few have not typed your name in the Google form. Based on your email ID which you have given, I have filled the name. For that purpose alone, I'm sharing your email ID with all, because the Google Sheet will have your email ID now. Maybe I'll remove your phone number alone because it's your data. So with your email ID, name, and with the affiliation, I'll share the sheet. Kindly check that once. If there are any corrections, please make those corrections and kindly add the UTR number in that Google Sheet. This will help us for the further process related to the FTP. Thank you all for joining us. And this evening, we'll not have a session, but please be prepared that on 27th, we'll be having 3 sessions. Afternoon 1 to 2:30, one session. And then again at 4:30 to 5:45, another session. And 6 to 7, 6 to 7:30, there'll be another session. 3 sessions totally on 27th, followed by a 15 minutes of valedictory function. So on 27th, we want you to be a little free so that will be our last day of our FTP, where we'll also wind up. So to this evening, that is 25th of November, we don't have the evening session 6 to 7. Fine. So this will be taken on 27th. Already it is being sent to you or circulated to you, and the dates are mentioned there in the program schedule. Please look into it and do join us tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll end the session now. Thank you.